Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. War Within as an expansion has been filled with a ton of different events, especially right now during the patch 11.17, which is a major catch-up update allowing players to catch up on new characters regarding levels, getting a couple of new ults ready ahead of Season 3 content, but also an opportunity to gear out characters and get kitted out ahead of the 11.2 update. However, a new buff is arriving in just a handful of days for the patch 11.17, with a Diablo crossover event called Collector's Bounty, which isn't meant to be a buff for catching up for endgame progression, but rather catch up for any of you that love transmogs or mount collecting. There's a lot of players out there that play WoW for multiple different reasons, but transmog hunting and mount farming is easily one of the most widely loved aspects of this game. The amount of items you can collect for your entire warband, all the different armor sets, and all the different things for you to obtain from every single expansion. I mean, it's a trove of almost an endless amount of content. And if you felt like you were behind in your transmogs and mounts, then this Collector's Bounty buff will be the most insane buff you ever experienced, as Blizzard gave us more information regarding how this buff will let you earn even more mogs as well as mounts from legacy content, which is going to give you so much stuff to do for an entire month of July. So let's go over exactly what Collector's Bounty buff is going to look like. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates regarding 11.17 or future updates like 11.2, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So Blizzard graced us with a massive update regarding the Collector's Bounty, which was like this unique but kind of a mysterious, a little bit of an unknown buff or an event that was going to happen during the Greedy Emissary event, which is WoW and Diablo's crossover event. You'll have treasure goblins in capital cities. You'll be able to empower them, I assume, to give additional loot. There's a bunch of Diablo themed items, cosmetics, a mount to collect. There's a bunch of class sets for you to obtain. So if you ever wanted like a revamped version, more like a hellish version of the class tier 2 revamp sets, that would be the best time to return back to the game, even if you're just looking to pick up a couple of cosmetics for that month. However, there's also going to be another buff that is active during that event, and that is the Collector's Bounty. For a while, Blizzard was very cagey about what the buff was actually going to be, but now they've actually put up a blue post to reveal it. So Collector's Bounty will be active for the entire month of July. I get June and July confused a lot of times, but it is going to be an entire month of July, so next week, in a handful of days actually, it is going to be available for that whole month. And that July in particular is a really good month for transmog collectors, especially on the trading post. We got some Banshee items that will be coming out very soon. Definitely worth getting them as soon as possible. But during this month with the Collector's Bounty buff, you'll now be able to slay foes in legacy dungeons and raids, and you'll find that these enemies are overloaded with additional treasure, defeating them once again to collect some of the bountiful rewards for your warband, which is essentially anything that is a collectible. Now, they also revealed a couple more important details for the event. It basically amounts to any dungeon or raid outside of the Dragonflight expansion. Everything that is pre-Dragonflight, Shadowlands, BFA, Legion, WoD, MoP, Kata, Wrath, Burning Crusade, Classic, every one of those instances for dungeons and raids is going to be part of this Collector's Bounty. So nothing for War Within, nothing for Dragonflight, but pretty great for everybody that's still trying to get mounts and transmog from older content. That's what Legacy really stands for. This is primarily a buff that applies to dungeons and raids. It doesn't really apply for open world content, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But essentially, during the event, you'll be able to earn twice as many drops from bosses within dungeons and raids. So if, let's say you've been running the Emerald Nightmare, and you still haven't obtained yourself the pair of the shoulders, the Xavius' unique shoulders, which look amazing, but they have a very low drop rate, because you'll be able to get double the loot from dungeons, twice as many drops, there's now a higher chance for you to be able to get some of those rare unique items. So for weapons or shoulders or any other transmog items that you can get from those instances, you'll simply will be able to get more gear, which will hopefully help you fill out all of your transmog collections from every single expansion and every single raid. More chances for unique mogs can potentially mean that you could finally finish out some of those collections, which is amazing. Now, certain items on the list will actually have an increased chance to drop. Some drop rates for items that are really rare are increased tenfold, while others increased almost 25-fold. So take whatever percentage you would have times 10 or up to times 25, giving you higher chance to drop it. So as an example, let's say you're doing hand Gul'dan, for example, right? And then one of the mounts that he can get is a living infernal core, which is about 1% drop. If you were to times that by 10, then you'll take in a pretty rare amount with a 1% chance to drop up to a 10%. And if you have a small army of alts running the raid, there's a good chance at 10% that mount is eventually going to drop. A lot better than players that have had maybe like, I don't know, hundreds of runs of this place. Now maybe in just a handful of runs, you'll probably get this thing dropping. Like those chances have increased dramatically. And while normally, me personally, I'm not somebody that goes out of my way usually for farming mounts for dungeons or raids, unless there's like a really cool mount. The only ones I really care usually for are cutting edge mythic mounts at the end of a raid tier, but I have started to spread out my small army of infinite alts into a couple of different instances and raids just for a chance to see if I can get a mount or two. It's got to become something of a pastime for me outside of the end-game progression, which slowed down while we're waiting for Season 3 content. So if you're in a similar boat and felt like you wanted to farm for mounts, but felt like, 1% chance to drop is kind of low, this update is going to include all legacy mount with that increased chance to drop. So some of the lower drop rates are actually being amplified. So if you want to take a small army of alts to raids and dungeons, this event would be your best time to add more mounts to your collections. Certain unique legendary items like the ISL for us, as well as the bindings of the Windseeker, will also have a higher drop rate from the Molten Core instance. So if you're trying to claim yourself the Sulphurous Legendary Hammer or the Windseeker Legendary, this would be the best time to return back to the game to try to claim some of those unique items. For Burning Crusade, we have the Black Temple, and obviously going to Illidan, we have the Warglaives of Azeroth, which is one of the best looking glaive demon hunters that obtain the weapon will also be able to get themselves the appearance of it if you run the TBC Black Temple version on the Time Walking raid. While we're on a topic of TBC, also Thori Dal the Stars Fury is on that list as an item that has a higher chance to drop. So if you haven't picked it up yet for like a Blood Elf or Void Elf Ranger look, especially in preparation for Midnight where we'll be going back to Quel'Thalas, this definitely would be one of those items that's worth snagging while it is available with a higher drop rate. Also, one of the more unique items I've actually listed here comes from Nighthold Mythic, although it is an item that doesn't appear on the loot tables normally. It is actually a toy called the Golden Hearthstone card. It comes from Nighthold and it gives you the appearance of Jaraxxus. That is the full list of items that are getting a higher chance to drop. However, I could totally see them add even more items based on community feedback, maybe some of the unique reagents needed for certain legendaries that don't drop nearly at a higher rate, or maybe have a very high drop rate. I would love to see stuff like that be expanded in the future, and I wouldn't be surprised if they added a number of items and even certain toys onto this list. Though with this, they also did give us a bit more information regarding this event. Collector's Bounty will be a buff that can be enabled or disabled automatically when you first log in on July, which probably makes it the best month to come back if you're a Transmog collector. The buff will be automatically available, but if you for some reason want to turn it off, you can always go to an innkeeper in any of the capital cities, or if you go to Dalaran, I'm not sure if it's going to be the Wrath version or Legion version, maybe both, but talking to the innkeeper of a capital city or Dalaran, you'll be able to turn the buff off. I don't really know why anybody would want to do that, but that option is on the table. Also, with you being able to get double the chance for loot from legacy content, I do wonder if there's an opportunity for you to be able to get BOE transmogs from legacy content as well. Because certain raids do have some unique items that are look-alike of a class set. Like there's a Demon Hunter tier shoulders that comes from, I believe, Timur Sargeras that normally is just equipable only by Demon Hunters, but there's a variation of that same shoulder on normal as well as mythic, or normal, heroic, and mythic that can be obtained as a BOE. That is then equipable and transmogable by druids, monks, and rogues. So some of those BOEs, I wonder if they will also have a higher drop rate from legacy content. And if they do, this could be your opportunity to farm those instances, get a bunch of BOEs, list them on the auction house, and make quite a bit of additional gold. And recently, we've had a big event with Turbulent Timeways, giving players an opportunity to level so many max level alts, and this is one of the fastest times for you to be able to get a bunch of characters caught up with the Time Walking dungeons, which are just getting spammed back to back by so many players right now, whether you're trying to get endgame gear or if you're trying to catch up a bunch of characters. There's just so much of an opportunity for you players to get an army of alts, and then you can send those alts into the dungeons and raids of older expansions to farm them full of loot, mounts, and so many other items. This buff of Collector's Bounty also does seem like something that will work for instance content, so dungeons and raids exclusively. It doesn't seem, unless Blizzard makes a change here, that it will work within open world content. So if, let's say, there's loot on a world boss or any of the open world rares that has a very, very low chance to drop, then you may be a little bit out of luck on this one. There is the Drake of the Four Winds mount that has a pretty long spawn rate and only a very, very small chance that I've been trying to farm, and that mount is definitely super inconvenient. And there's a few mounts that have very, very rare spawn rates and even really incredibly low drop rates for when they do spawn for some of those items. So I wonder if this event could be applied for those enemies as well, like maybe increase the spawn rate or give them a guarantee that the mounts will drop off of them when you do eventually see them, so at least, you know, a little bit of that open world grind can be made a little bit easier during the event. But with that being said, for now, that is all we have regarding the new Collector's Bounty buff arriving in just a handful of days. As always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did enjoy this update or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Also, join our Discord community, especially if you want to keep up with future updates regarding PTR patch 11.2, or if there's any new major features or guides to be written regarding patch 11.17 and some of the new events. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys at our next one.